when we finally close and lock the doors and light the match to burn this thing to the ground.
Well, we probably won't burn it to the ground because it is my house, and I'd rather not burn my house.
Well, I mean, it's a figurative description. I mean, we delete all audio and all references that we ever did this, and we all move on like we never knew each other.
I'm the portion of the pie where people are eating it, and they say, am I tasting nutmeg? I can't really put my finger on it.
You're the dash. You're the, like in the recipe where it says a dash of nutmeg. That's you, Steve. Steve, you're the dash of nutmeg. I think one of them slipped in a big robot butt or something like that. I don't remember. I don't remember the specifics.
So one of the characters from Star Wars slept in a robot butt?
Nailed it.
Hey, sounds right to me.
Baldy and Nutmeg in the morning, back here with you on this exciting Sunday morning. How you doing, Baldy?
Just Baldy over here checking in there. Nutmeg, we got traffic on the 8s, weather on the 6s, and sports on the 4s. Stay tuned.
That's a full show right there.
That is a full show. Can you imagine every 2 minutes you have to do some type of meaningless local update?
Traffic, weather, sports.
Yeah, I don't know why you need
all right, sports. I can kind of understand.
Every 10 minutes?
I think of the I'm not justifying every 10 minutes, but I don't need weather every 10 minutes.
No,
because I got my phone here. Now, granted, I could look at my phone for sports, but I mean, typically with most phones now, within a glance, it's there's your forecast for the day.
Well, what?
Like, look. 52 today.
Yeah, and listen, for all of your stupid memes and whatever for every state that people live in, the idea that, well, you know how the weather can change on a dime. It's not changing on the 3s. Like, you're not getting the 8:13 a.m. weather update, and then by 8:23, you're shaking your fist in the air at that meteorologist because now it's snowing. That's typically not the way it goes.
I've talked about that before. It's one of my biggest pet peeves about, when people say, well, South Dakota, if you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes.
I mean, everybody knows what they say about Michigan, right? It goes summer or winter, traffic season, right?
Construction.
Oh, Jesus. I don't know how you're in that medium. It's just offensive. Imagine getting paid.
I don't know. I honestly, I was talking more about like Facebook than radio.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
Because it's every Karen that posts the picture of like a person with a winter hat on, then it says 9 a.m., and then a picture of a person in a bikini, and it says 11 a.m.
Oh, can you imagine that?
Raining, and it says 1 p.m., and then it says, like, typical day in Michigan.
Oh, hope we don't flood. Good God. Ugh. I know I haven't listened to you guys in years, as I've said before. Don't like the production. Sure. Have you guys, that's what you've started to do, I presume, in recent years, is some traffic for all of your affiliates?
Every one of them, yeah.
So you've got to hit traffic for Albany on the 3s. You've got to get traffic for Albany on the 5s. So it's really just 4 hours of traffic updates then? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, it's a real busy morning, but, we're providing a public service.
I mean, we're a step away from you on the webcam, Steve, with maybe a wacky outfit on, just pointing at all the traffic cycles in different cities and saying, avoid here, a big wreck. And
then inevitably there's the day that I accidentally wear green, and then I blend in with the green screen, and hijinks ensue.
Oh, man, then they start...
Oh, boy.
Man, you're a floating head in the city of Saratoga.
So many good ideas for Baldy and Nutmeg in the morning.
Baldy and Nutmeg in the morning. Now, is there a way, because I know your side gig, the radio program, Steve, has the webcams, and they're triggered, like when you speak, if you're speaking for a few seconds, it will go to your exclusive camera, right?
Yep. Yeah,
like
exactly.
The one that's just facing you. And if I remember right, that'll have your name, and then maybe does it have your Twitter handle below it as well? Something like that?
Yeah. If it's all based on time. Like if I talk for a certain amount of time, I think it's like 8 seconds or 10 seconds, that little graphic will pop up that'll say Steve, and then, my Twitter or Instagram or whatever.
Is there any way you could maybe, hack the servers or do whatever
all right,
and change it so that when you speak, the camera switches to you, and below it, instead of Steve and at no PH in Steven, it just says Nutmeg, 1/2 of Baldy and Nutmeg.
Oh, that's simple. I could do that. I could do that in a matter of minutes.
Because
when I get in tomorrow,
your fellow show members don't. They're not. It's not like they're checking. Like they're not like, hey, I'm going to go home and watch our webcam performance from today and see how it looked. So the only way they would hear about it is via email or something. A few days later, it's like, hey, did you guys? Is Steve going by Nutmeg now?
Well, the problem is now with the new studio. They can see that screen. Like it used to be, that screen was hidden in another room.
Oh, so you have like a simulcast.
Yeah, well, it's like our feedback monitor, so we can see to make sure that the right thing is going out over the stream. So
this needs to happen for a day.
I don't think they look at it. I don't think they look at it enough, and I could always change that up. Like I could always put the channel or put the TV on a different input.
Well, and even if it's for like the 8 a.m. hour on Tuesday. Like, because at that point, even if one of them thinks they notices it, but then when they look up there again at, 9:30, like, no, it says Steve. I don't know why my eyes thought that said Nutmeg, 1/2 of Baldy and Nutmeg. Obviously, I was wrong because it says Steve. I'm looking right at it.
If you're unfamiliar, last week on the podcast, we discussed that I am I'm the pinch or the dash of an ingredient in a recipe as it relates to the side gig.
Well,
so
that all started.
If you're ever eating, if you're eating a delicious pie and you think like, do I taste a little cinnamon in there? Yeah, that's it. That's me. That is that's according to some listeners, that is my contribution to the show because they. For whatever reason, think that the only work that we do is when the microphones are on.
Right.
And then microphones turn off, and it's like, nothing to do now.
Yeah, and then a million questions about what are they paying Steve for.
Yeah.
But it's important to specify about the cinnamon/nutmeg dash in that pie recipe. You could absolutely love cinnamon. Like, you could think that's a normal pie, but with that dash of cinnamon, it's a fantastic pie. More importantly, and what I think happens most often, is people say, that pie sucks. If it didn't have any cinnamon or nutmeg on it, I'd eat a lot more.
Yeah, it sounds...
In a hypothetical. Of course, I'm simply speaking about seasonings involved in pie making, Steve. This has nothing
This has nothing to do with me.
No, this
nothing
is
to do with me at all.
Hypothetical about delicious desserts and crappy ingredients that nobody wants or enjoys.
Right. Yeah.
Hypothetically.
Yeah. Hypothetically, of course. Not in any way related to me.
Well, but Steve, going back to your idea of that's one of your pet peeves that you mentioned, that almost sounded like you were prepared to unleash a gripe of the week.
Oh, no. Look, I know my lane, and I stay in it. I am nutmeg, I am cinnamon, I'm a dash or a pinch and nothing else.
That's what you're here for?
When it comes to gripes of the week, I know that belongs to you.
Right.
Would you like to roll into a gripe of the week right now?
No, let's hold it. Let's hold it because I do have a few other things I wanted to get to now I do think we should get to it kind of no matter what. We did. I have a burgeoning list. I texted you this week. I said, Steve, it's growing. I have 4. I have 4 gripes of the week that at some point I would like to get to.
Okay.
But what I wanted to get to first is, and I apologize because we haven't even allowed you to properly introduce the show this morning.
That's right. It is Sunday, April 26th, 2020, the year of our Lord. It's the Steve and Kyle podcast for the 5th week or so.
So,
broadcasting in our own separate facilities. Me here in APS 3.0. You, it looks like you've upgraded a bit. You're in the living room now. You've been in the basement for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I threw my kid outside, told him to shut up for a while, and good. Took over the upstairs. So I get
appreciate
to
that.
sit
He's
here,
pretty annoying when we're recording sometimes. What?
Look out my front window and watch the birds attack the bird feeder. Does that make the bird feeder makes me old? By the way, right? Like this is a total digression, but me having a bird feeder. That makes me an old man, right?
Yeah, especially if you keep up on it. Like, it's one thing to have it, fill it once, and then just forget about it like a lot of people do. But
that's just
I'm
rude
assuming
to the birds is what that is.
I'm assuming that you're a guy that is on bird feeder filling schedule. Like, every Tuesday at 4 p.m., you go out there and feed your little birdies.
Listen, it's nice scenery right out the front window, so I don't have to look at my dumb neighbors. I get to look at these beautiful birds, indulge in the bird food that I provided. I am providing sustenance for, it's fine. You're welcome,
right,
birds.
They probably wouldn't make it if it wasn't for you.
Hey, you're welcome. No need to thank me any further.
Hold on. Are you turning into a bit of a birder? Because I got a neighbor.
Oh, wow. Could you hook me up? Let me give you the extent of my bird knowledge, Steve. And it's when we sit here and I see a bird jump up to the bird feeder. And I look at Katie and I said, hey, a small one. That's it.
That one had a orange beak.
She called the other day. I said, oh, hey, that's a bigger one. She said, yeah, it's a cardinal. I said, oh, is that what that is?
It's a
red big one? And red. I should have known.
Hey, there you go.
So yeah, I could use some of the. Of course, she's. I don't want that hack, as we talked about. I want that married couple who was just all over the map. This hack of that your neighbor is claiming to be a preeminent birder, ridiculous. But we digress. But we digress. We're recording a touch later this morning, Steve, on Sunday, and I have a question to ask you right off the bat. Because I didn't give you proper notice in terms of when we were going to be recording. Whatever. Minutia. Don't need to even get into it. When you replied to me, your reply was, be ready, stand by, be ready in 5. I was on a run.
Yeah. I did. I went for a run this morning.
Was this a meaningful Steve run, or was this a get out of the house and do a lap around the subdivision, not really timing or tracking your distance or anything, or was this a Steve, I'm going to run 3 miles this morning?
No, this I guess kind of somewhere in the middle of all of them. I just wanted to get out and do a little exercise. Been like everyone else, you feel a little bit cooped up, even though, honestly, my life hasn't really changed at all.
Right.
We talked about it last week, except for the only thing I can't do that I normally do is go to Home Depot. And
right. Projects waiting for Steve.
Yeah. I had been meaning to get back on that horse and go out for a run. So I just did like a mile around the neighborhood. I was out and back in 10 minutes.
We've talked about this a little bit. That you just kind of you were done. You were done with the running in terms of running for purpose. I mean, when you used to train for marathons and whatever. So let me ask you, is this simply to get out of the house, or is this for a larger purpose, Steve? Are you going to be back on the half marathon or
Not
25K wag? You're done. Are you officially retired?
I think I've been officially retired for like 3 years.
Well, yeah, I said that about softball too, and then I came back for one ill-fated season.
I think that... I mean, there's a chance I could do like a 5K or maybe a 10K, but I don't...
Oh, okay. I mean, there's children
my,
doing that where you run through water balloons with color on them or whatever,
exactly.
And they call it a run, yeah.
I think that my days of... I can't ever imagine running more than like 6 miles ever again, though.
Really?
And even that, after today, because today, I did 1 mile.
Yeah.
At a 10-minute pace, and I felt like death at the end of it.
Well, you know what they say, Steve. The first mile is always the hardest to run. Isn't that something that running people say?
Runners, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they all say, though, right? The first, the first cut is the deepest. The first mile's the hardest. Same thing.
Yeah, I have all of the Nike T-shirts that say that same thing on them.
Like never give up and live strong and run harder. Is that a thing?
Yeah, run your PR. Don't forget to hydrate. Yeah, these are all common sayings.
So you are done with the marathoning half. Okay, good. I just wanted to double check. Sometimes you get a wild hair about you, and next thing you know, you've got a piece of paper on your fridge that you're marking off how many miles you've run a day as you prepare for a ultrathon or whatever those lunatics call them.
That being said, not out of the question for me to, I don't know, like be challenged to do something and be like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then I will have to do it because I try not to go back on my word.
Right. And one thing, speaking of softball and how that died, that reminded me, I wanted to get to, it was a few weeks ago, Steve. We've missed a few pretty important anniversaries related to this podcast.
Have we?
In the last 3 to 4 weeks. The first one being, and I wish we had the ability to simply play audio.
Yeah. Proving to be difficult.
Because 3 weeks ago, Steve, you and I made our triumphant visit to our faces on a billboard in Van Wert, Ohio.
How could I forget? Of course we did.
Arguably the most important moment in this podcast history.
We drove, 3 hours, 3.5 hours or so?
Drove 3 hours and enjoyed an afternoon with 10 to 12 of our fans who drove to visit us and look at our faces in a carpet store parking lot.
Was it just Van Wert Carpet, or what was the name of that place?
Oh, I don't even. I'm sure it's on our pictures, on some of the pictures from that afternoon, where pictures of the billboard. You can see the carpet store sign, which we talked about at the time. Tried to be witty and funny, and try to take the air out of our tires against their better judgment. But an absolute beautiful visit. And that was a year ago, 3 weeks ago, Steve. And like I said, it's for my money, that's either number one or number two. It's just a matter of how I rank the entire ridiculousness of the Boston trip in terms of memories from this podcast where you and I visited Boston.
Was that 3 summers ago? That was summer of 2017, right?
That was 3 years ago. Boy, was that 3 years ago? Yeah, it's coming up. 3 years ago coming up. Yeah, because it was 3 summers ago, Steve, because another anniversary yesterday was the disaster that is Kyle's floppy foot on the softball field.
Yeah.
A heck of a moment in show history that was actually brought up to me before, Facebook memories or whatever brought it up to me yesterday. I had an encounter, Steve, with a listener this week while I was at work.
A podcast listener.
A podcast listener, a podcast fan.
Really?
Who we've communicated with.
They exist, huh?
I don't know why. So I want to say hello to Paul and thank you for listening. And we had a lovely discussion. Paul is a binge listener.
Wow.
He listened to. So what he did is this winter he caught up he listened to the entire podcast up until January, and then he totally stopped. And he is now waiting for early summer because he then wants to just listen to
again
all of those episodes that he has now missed all at one time while he's at work.
So it's going to be a couple months until he hears this.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
This will be a couple of months till he hears this. But yeah, he reminded me of my floppy foot, my ruptured Achilles 3 years ago this week, and how he said that was I don't want to put words in his mouth. I don't think he said like one of his favorite moments, but I think he said one of like the funniest moments because, and again, this stands true. If you go back and you listen to, I want to say it was probably April 15 or 16 of 2017, the joy in my voice that softball was returning because I hadn't played it in some time and I really enjoyed it compared to the following week
Three
pitches where I had to scoot my butt down Steve's steps to record the podcast.
Yep. That was
It is such
quite a turn, quite a chain of events in that few day span.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it's not a good memory. I don't look back on my ruptured Achilles with fondness, but it was 365 days to the T, Steve, that I returned to the softball field the following year. But yeah, that is a shining moment in this podcast history as we prepared for that, and Paul was able to remind me of that. And Paul also had something that I wanted to bring up to you.
Okay.
That I'm trying to figure out how you should take it.
Oh, boy.
Because my overwhelming thought is negatively.
Okay. It's quite a setup. So
and
let me have it. Does it have anything to do with nutmeg? No, of course it wouldn't because he...
Yeah, he's not familiar.
He wouldn't have heard that yet.
It has something to do with your appearance. And what I'm trying not to do...
It's an insult. No matter what it is, it's an insult because I know he didn't. I know he didn't walk up to you and say, "Hey, Kyle, love the podcast. Boy, Steve sure is good looking."
Well, Steve, you don't know that. Okay?
I do.
You don't know that. But what's weird is the way Paul framed it, and again, I'm going to try to recite it. It's not going to be verbatim. It was happening. It was really early in the morning. I was in the middle of work, so I wasn't 100% there. He didn't mean it as an insult. Now, Steve, when you've been compared to people, whether it be on the side gig or in whatever, it's typically what? It's your Aaron Rodgers. That's the main one, right?
It's typically because people tend to be pretty unoriginal.
Right.
It's literally anyone with a beard.
Oh, good.
Anyone.
Good. So now,
anyone at all. It's usually, Aaron Rodgers, that's kind of an exception because even I look at some pictures of Aaron Rodgers and I'm like, man, we do kind of look alike.
Sure.
But yeah, Aaron Rodgers, Zach Galifianakis I get from time to time, which is absurd.
That's
we
absurd.
Look nothing alike.
Not even close.
We just both have beards.
Not even close.
Okay, so
well, Steve,
lay it on me. Let's hear it.
I'll say this. This is one that I would almost guarantee you've never heard before.
Okay, well, let me pull up Google so I'm ready to type in this person's name.
Steve, what you got compared to this week by our friend Paul. Do you remember the Super Bowl, Steve? You remember watching the Super Bowl, the big television event?
Yeah, like the most recent one?
The most recent one.
Chiefs and 49ers?
Chiefs and 49ers. Do you remember any of the ads? No, I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember any of them. I remember some of the products, but I don't remember a lot of the ads. I don't
even bother watching for that.
There was one with Martin Scorsese, famed director Martin Scorsese, and it was related to Coca-Cola Energy. And do you remember the other person in that ad, Steve?
No, I vaguely remember that Martin Scorsese was in an ad. I wouldn't have been able to tell you what it was for or who was in it with him, though.
Steve, would it surprise you to hear that this week you were compared to Jonah Hill from the Super Bowl ad this year?
Jonah Hill Super Bowl ad. Let's see.
Now, I'll say this right off the bat. We are not in a skinny Jonah Hill phase.
Currently, we're not?
We are not. And you'll be
Really?
able to
I thought
notice
that he had...
that if when you look up the image from the Coca-Cola
I do remember
ad.
this. Yeah, I remember this now. And then they hugged at the end. You know, I'll give that to him. I'll give that to him. Paul, yeah, accurate. Paul is accurate. Well, see, because I get a lot of times people say that me and Joe from the side gig look alike.
Right, which I think is absurd. Obviously, but knowing you guys and having seen you, it's a little more absurd than if you see images on a website or a webcam or whatever.
But people for a long time told him he looked just like Jonah Hill, so I guess it's not a surprise that if he looks like Jonah Hill and we kind of look alike, then yeah, by default, I would look like Jonah Hill. All right, Paul, I'll give you that.
Wow.
He's not in super skinny, like ripped Jonah Hill phase he was, but he's not super bad Jonah Hill where he was just like a pile of pudding either.
Right.
So,
but looking at this picture now, and again, I'm like you, I don't remember the ad specifically, and now I'm looking at pictures. This almost feels like it's falling into beard hair guy.
Yeah, it's definitely because I think if both of us are clean shaven, we don't look anything alike.
Sure.
Suddenly you put a beard on someone though, and everybody thinks like they're twins. So
beard and
relatively
tall hair.
There's my motivation to go for another run.
Yeah, today, right? There maybe 3 to 6.
Yeah. I got to return your reciprocating saw. Maybe I'll just run over to your house. What's
There's
that?
no
That's
way that could go
5 miles, right?
Oh yeah, I could. Yeah, definitely. Well, you're looking at on the main road. You're looking at
that's probably 3 miles right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and then I'm at least a mile off of there.
I bet you'd be an 9 mile run, Steve. I bet you'd be a 9 mile run.
Round trip or
round trip?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not doing that.
You know what you do, and this is. I was reading the other day that there has been a resurgence, Steve, in one of your pastimes, and
BMX?
That is
fruit booting.
Fruit booting.
Is there really?
Yeah, there was a link I read this week about hockey players. You can't find like a set of rollerblades right now because they're all getting snatched up.
So you got boots, right?
No, why would I have rollerblades? I'm 33 with a kid and a car. What in God's name would I get a pair of blades for?
No, I just assumed that you had had one left over from when you were 14-year-old fruit booting Kyle.
The idea that people actually when they're moving, as they're growing up, right? Like if you have those 14-year-old pair of boots.
I feel like this is going to be insulting.
No, it's not. It's not, just in general. But if you're if you have your last pair of rollerblades, because you can say if we're just to assume, right, your feet at age 16, whatever, they're not growing that much bigger. Let's say the boots fit, right, and you're age 20, you're age 22, and you're moving. Let's say you move to a college dorm as a teenager. Let's say you get engaged or married and you're moving into an apartment or a house with your significant other. The idea that you look at those boots in a storage spot in your home and say, "Yep, pack them up. Haven't thrown them on in 8 years, but who knows? I should bring those to my next home." You'd have to be some real dumb Jonah Hill looking idiot. I mean, there's just no other excuse, right?
Yeah. That would be pathetic. Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you filibuster for about 30 seconds?
Oh, Steve, come on. It's my all-time favorite thing to do is to be able to filibuster here as Steve jumps off camera to go find something. There's been a resurgence in rollerblading, and I'll put that on the poll this week. Do you own a set of rollerblades? And I'll actually title it Rollerblades because in our infinite journey to be competent and unbiased newsmen, that's how it will be phrased on the poll this week at Steve and Kyle on Twitter, on Facebook. Do you own a pair of rollerblades? So, Steve, you're back now. Oh, for God's sake. Steve, you're holding up to the camera. That's a pair of rollerblades. Now, can you estimate for me the era that you had these?
Well, the era is right now because I still have them and they're awesome.
Sorry. Obviously, I misspoke. Can you estimate the era that these were purchased? And I say that in that specific manner because I have a feeling that these may not have even been purchased by you.
They were definitely purchased by me.
Okay, so they weren't like, hey, Ma!
No.
I just watched Devil's Backbone.
The movie's Airborne.
Come on. Whatever.
Show some respect.
I need my own pair of boots so I can go hit the hills.
These were purchased, I believe, when I was in college. So
hang on.
99 to 03.
So you see a movie nowadays, well, any era, and you see a depiction of college, and you've got people partying, you've got people boozing, you've got, guys trying to hook up with women, you've got parties, you've got all this stuff. Thus far, 205 whatever episodes into this podcast, what we have discovered about College Steve is...
This shouldn't be a surprise.
Is Steve sprinting upstairs in his underwear after being caught wrestling with his roommate.
Right, by the hot girls next door.
And then when he finally came back out, he came back down the stairs wearing his rollerblades to go for a quick blade around the quad.
I feel as though, look, I'm not trying to tell you that I was cool in college by any means, but these were if you notice, they're the Nike specifically hockey skates. These were purchased to play hockey with.
Right. So it's probably you and at that era maybe Doug.
Frank. Frank was Frank from Frank and Eric. We played hockey quite a bit in college. That was our go-to. We'd go over to like the tennis courts or whatever on campus, play hockey a little bit.
Now, if you were to text Frank, right now, do you think he still owns that same set of rollerblades as well?
I bet he does, because
now, great. He's moved cross country twice, right?
Yeah. So that's true. He may have gotten rid of them, but before I moved to Michigan in June or May of 2009, I was living in Jersey City, in New Jersey. Frank was also living in Jersey City, about 5 minutes from me, and we were playing on a roller hockey team. I had a game 2 nights before I moved here. I played right up until I moved here, and I loved it. I had a blast. We weren't very good, but it was fun. The rink was like a couple blocks from my house. We'd go over there once a week, play hockey for an hour and a half, like in an actual league.
Right.
And I loved it. And then so at the point when I moved, I was still fully into it. I was playing every week, like I said, right up until I moved. And then I moved here, and I remember looking around trying to find a league, and I found one. There's a league that plays 10 minutes from here. So I was like, before I sign up, because I emailed about it, I was like, hey, do you have any openings? And they're like, yep, we got openings on, this tier, and this tier. Which one do you think you'd fit in?
Sure.
And I was like, I'd have to watch, like I'd have to go and watch a game first. So I went over to the rink one night, and there were 2 games going on. It was like the beginner league and the intermediate league were playing. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm definitely not playing in the advanced league or whatever the top tier was. So, I mean, I'm not going to be a beginner, but I bet I'll be intermediate. I watched a beginner game, and they would have like skated circles around me. So I left thinking, okay, well, the dream is over.
Did you show up wearing your finest Philadelphia Flyers sweater so they know you really knew your stuff?
Yeah,
about puck.
My Ron Hextall jersey. No, I had my Mighty Ducks jersey on from the movie.
Right, obviously. Okay. I'm sorry, this has turned into a digression.
That's all right.
I feel like I need to say, because I think it was 2 years ago, you and I had remarkably brief discussions about sponsoring a roller derby team.
Yeah.
And the reason that was remarkably brief was because to sponsor a roller derby team is, let's call it, overpriced.
Well, I remember thinking, this was when we were in our guerrilla marketing phase of the podcast.
Right, which we gave up on that as well.
Gave up, yeah, completely quit that. We were thinking that we would throw them a couple $100. They'd stick our names on jerseys, like we'd sponsor a team.
Even a shoulder patch.
Well, that would have been great, just to go and watch one game, take a few pictures, maybe get a picture with the team.
Well, yeah, because we had said we wanted a picture. Just like if you go into your local Pizza Hut, there's always that same brown plaqued image of the Little League team sponsored by the local Pizza Hut.
Right. That's
what we wanted for our studio, but with grown women who could beat the crap out of us in a roller derby game.
And then they sent me the advertising package, and the minimum buy-in was like $5,000. And you basically got nothing for it.
Yeah.
I think like you got your name on like a wheel of one skate on the team.
Yeah, well, not even that. I think we were like in the program. Which, who the hell's buying a program at a local roller derby team?
Yeah.
You and I, we go about things a certain way. Like part of our whole questionnaire when we were getting a billboard was, do we get to keep it?
Which the answer was yes.
Yeah.
Still yet to see that billboard.
Still yet to see it. Still waiting on Joe to give us a quote on shipping.
Had he gotten? Did he ever get back to us?
Yeah, he said, "Let me get you a couple quotes to ship that." And then obviously the virus kind of took hold, and haven't heard from him. So maybe we lost Joe, is what I'm saying.
Yeeks.
But
J-Stan is no longer with us.
What I'm saying is that, Steve, you and I were going in. We wanted our names on the jersey. And to be quite honest with you, I wanted a banner that hung over the cage that we could then take home at the end of the year.
Like, I don't think it's too much to ask for, instead of players' names on the back of jerseys, like half the team has Steve and the other half has Kyle Podcast.
I don't think it's too much to ask to, instead of their name on the front, it's just a picture or the team name. It's just our logo.
Yeah. Come on. What the hell?
But whatever. So I think we pivot.
But we digress.
I think we pivot. And I think you and I are the new anchors on a newly formed local roller hockey team.
Wait, you mean you're playing? You're in? Hello? Kyle.
Oh, sorry, I must have lost you there. So I think that we throw our name in
maybe
our
local
support.
Anchor wasn't exactly the right term.
Listen, I'll be there every week. I'll have the rolled up lineup card and play sheet, and I'll be smacking it into my palm, trying to get you guys to go faster.
So you're going to be the manager.
Yeah, well, yeah, player, coach, player in like 14 parentheses or 14 quotes. In emergencies only.
I thought that, but after your softball stint, you seem to hate the managerial role.
That's true. I feel like the difference here would be the overlap of people and the softball team wouldn't be a lot compared to what we would have for the hockey team. Also, I don't think you don't need nearly as many people, right? Like I don't need 12 people for a roller hockey game. I need five. I need 5 on the converted basketball court.
Well, look, I mean, if you want to, you need to have 3 solid lines. You got your scoring line, you got your secondary scoring line, and then you got your line of enforcers.
Yeah, so
plus
we need
a goalie.
6 people.
So we need 6
people.
No, we need 16. We need three lines of 5.
Steve, you're way too many. We're cutting the budget. It's 6, and you're going to like it, and there's no breaks.
So 6 total.
Yep.
We're playing full-on 60-minute games.
Yep. You want water? You have to score a goal.
Seems fair.
That's it. No, because first of all, listen, it's not going to be 60-minute games. We're talking roller hockey on a local level. I'm guessing it'll be 30 minutes total. I think if we can get 8 people, honestly, 8 or 9, that would be plenty, right?
I think so. Yeah, I mean,
welcome to the West Michigan Nutmeg. You're in.
The team is named after me?
I think we call them the West Michigan Nutmeg, and then maybe below it, presented by Steve and Kyle.
I'm in. I am 100. So wait, are we starting this league, or are we just forming a team? And then finding a league?
I think for starters, I think we maybe just find a league. I think starting a league, probably a touch over your and I's head on how to do that.
Well, I just thought of something. As you know, I live here in the ZAC. And,
obviously.
It's basically made for roller hockey.
Okay, so now you want to start a league and use the ZAC for that. So, when Cindy the widow has to get in her driveway on a Sunday morning,
Cindy has moved on.
Oh God, she died too?
No, she has moved on.
Oh my God, rest in peace, Cindy. I mean, die of a broken heart. You know what they say, Steve? It's worse than cancer.
Who exactly says that?
What's that? Sorry, I think your audio is breaking up.
Speaking of Cindy the widow, did you notice that? I think I sent you a couple pictures last week, right? While I was doing some deck demo, I did my socially distant demolition in the backyard.
Yeah, well, you sent me now. What is this in relation to? You sent me a few pictures of your deck demo. You also sent me a video.
Oh, the video! I don't even know if I can talk about that.
Okay, all right. No, there's no need to. And listen, we're not being coy. All we're saying is that Steve, you physically saw your neighbors. That's it.
I did. I saw my neighbors, and I don't really want to say. Yeah, I don't want to say anymore.
That's fine. That's fine.
Because if the 1 in 1 trillion chance that we actually become friends one day.
Oh, for God's sake! That's why you're holding back.
Well,
I thought you were. Listen. For my money, there's 2 options with those neighbors. They're robots. They're witness protection. That's it. There's 2.
Well, after what we saw the other day, I may as well just say it now, because even if we do become friends, they're going to listen to this and be like,
I hope they do.
What were we doing that was so odd? At one point, we're sitting in the living room the other night, like earlier in the week, and Annette says, "What the hell?" She's looking out the window.
Now, Annette's not like a reactionary person. Like, that's something that I would say. You're not going to get that type of reaction out of Annette in any normal or semi-normal circumstance.
Yeah, Annette is as even keel as they come.
Yeah.
She's like, "What the hell?" I look out the window. Annette is dying laughing. And I look out, and the neighbors are just in the backyard. It's the 2 of them, husband and wife. Don't know their names because they ignore me every time I see them.
Yeah, you've met them via Nextdoor, where she liked one of your comments and then ghosted you.
Yeah. Now, I understand that in times of quarantine, people are a bit bored. So it's not uncommon. Like my neighbors across the street that have the 2 young kids, we've seen them a lot more because they're no doubt struggling for things to do with their kids. So they're outside. They're going on walks all the time. They were outside, like playing a family game of wiffle ball one night. And
sure.
So for people with a family, I think that's pretty normal. What's not normal is to look out your back window and see your neighbors running around the backyard, the two of them, again, grown adults, volleying a volleyball back and forth, like doing like bump set spike. I'm sorry, future friend, if you're listening to this. That was weird. Like, that was odd.
But it's not that. Listen, a lot of people are probably going, well, why is that odd? You know, maybe they're just outside doing an outdoor activity. I feel like it's important to clarify. They didn't have a net.
No, they were running around the yard like bump, set, bump, set. It just looked odd. And I know
like,
that's unfair because volleyball is a sport just like any other sport. But if they were out in the backyard having a catch with a baseball,
yeah.
I don't think anything of it. Throwing a football around, I don't think anything of it. I don't know, playing tennis against their garage door. A little weird, but
more normal than this.
Yeah, this was like one-on-one volleyball, one-on-one grass volleyball in the backyard.
I'm not going to go over the
this
exact
could be a me thing.
I sent you.
This might be a me thing. Maybe we can put that on the poll this week.
Yeah, I'll put that on the poll right now.
Is one-on-one grass volleyball in your backyard weird?
Without a net.
Without a net,
I'll just say, is two-person volleyball without a net in your backyard weird? Backyard weird.
Yes.
Now, and again, we are presuming that they are not familiar with this podcast and or listen to this podcast, and if they do, this was all Kyle saying this. I think it's odd. Steve thought it was totally normal.
Hey now, you don't talk to them that way.
Okay, is two-person volleyball... This is weird to even type.
Without a net.
Without a net in your backyard. Weird.
Very simple. Simple
Very
question.
simple. So, again, those are on the poll. It's 2 polls for today. At Steve and Kyle on Facebook and Twitter. You can find those at.
But we digress. So...
But
I had sent you a picture of, I finally took the deck apart last weekend. Got a little motivated. Came apart much easier than I ever imagined it would.
Right.
Basically with hand tools. I took it apart in like 4 hours. But I sent you a picture. After all was deconstructed, the one thing that remained unmoved, untouched, was a blue tarp.
A blue tarp that... upon the picture that you sent me, Steve, looked like there had to be something in it. It was just, it had a big bulge, right?
Yeah.
So the main thing would be, okay, they wrap something up and put it under the deck.
Yeah, my theory was, because they used to have an above-ground swimming pool, I thought for sure that they rolled it up in a tarp, put it under the deck, or rolled it up and put it there and then built a deck around it.
Sure.
But your reply was, I don't know what it is, but it's something dead. The family dog, Cindy's husband.
Yep.
Something in there is dead.
That's the only possible. I mean, honestly, that thing would have to be ridiculous if there's not something in it.
There was nothing in it. It was just so big of a tarp. It was ballpark probably 25 feet wide by maybe 50 feet long. Like, it was the biggest tarp I've ever seen. A
wholly unnecessarily large tarp.
I don't know what they would have used it for, because at that point it's too big to be practical. Like, it couldn't be used, like we have a tarp that I keep out in the shed that I use when we're cleaning up leaves in the fall. You know, it's like 12 feet long by 10 feet wide or something, and you rake leaves on it, drag them around. But this thing was as wide as my backyard.
An absurd image that I saw when you that you had either sent me or posted, I believe, Steve.
Yeah.
When you unfurled it a couple of days later, the pure scope of this thing, asinine.
I don't understand what it was for. Somebody suggested maybe it was like used if they were putting a roof on the house and it started to rain. They draped it across the roof, so maybe that was it. But yeah, it ended up being another one of my world famous Facebook Marketplace free giveaways. just one of two that I did this week, and it was taken away. Somebody, I took that picture, I sent it to you, I posted it on Facebook Marketplace, and then I didn't touch it. I just left the tarp out there because I was tired of looking at it, tired of dealing. Unrolled. Posted it on Marketplace. Somebody messaged me. They said, "Hey, can I come over and pick it up?" And I said, "Yeah, you can. Just bring a friend because it's going to take two people to, like, you know,
to roll it up,
to roll this thing up and carry it because it's massive. It weighed a ton of.
Yeah.
It just had a ton of weight to it." So the woman replied and said, "My husband's on his way to pick it up." And I said, "Okay, I'm not coming outside, and you're on your own. I'll leave the gate open." So I watched for about 10 minutes while this guy struggled because he
came by himself. He didn't take your advice.
Came by himself, and of course he, picked up. He was folding it into smaller and smaller pieces, and then he got, of course it was a somewhat windy day. So he's pulling it, and then the wind gets under it, and it's flipping around, and he's holding on to it. And I just stood there in the window. At one point, he looked up. I waved.
Gave you a wave? And was this as he was like, almost out of a Three Stooges movie where he somehow had rolled himself up in it, and you could just see his toes like waddling as he's wandering around rolled up in your tarp?
Essentially. So I think he finally gave up with the folding method and eventually just drug the whole thing out into the front yard. Then I walked around to the front window to watch him from there. And he had a pickup truck and it had a cover on the back of it. So he rolled the cover back a little bit and then he just grabbed bunches of it at a time and fed it into the bed of the truck. And then he drove away. And I thought, mission accomplished. I got rid of my garbage once again.
Well, Steve, we're gonna maybe I'll ask for your assistance. How do I put this on the poll? Because my first thinking would be, is Steve a jerk? That would be the way I would phrase it.
I think there needs to be a bit of context.
Wow! Now you're into context.
How about is Steve a jerk for not helping fold a tarp?
Yep, that's fair. Is Steve okay?
Look, man, coronavirus, COVID-19. You can't risk it.
Is Steve a jerk for not helping roll up a tarp? Speaking of polls, Steve, we are. I did want to get to last week's polls because we don't have a ton of time left today, and we had a ton of polls last week, and we still have a couple of bits that we have to get to. I have a little bit of a surprise for you, Steve, coming up after I read these polls.
Boy, I can't wait. I mean, you've already surprised me with that great bit of info from listener Paul. That was neat.
So, did you while I read these polls, I need you to prepare.
Hold on. This is completely random, but when we're done recording, I think I have come up with a solution to our audio problem.
Oh, very good. So hopefully going forward, the audio you play, I can hear.
Wait, never mind. I just realized that it will not work.
Ah, perfect. Wow, that was a real swing of emotions.
No, I think it will. I'm back on the winning team.
But while I grab my phone here and pull up these poll results that you sent me, Steve, do you have a piece of audio that I sent you last night or 2 nights ago?
Yes.
Ready and able to play when we need it in a few moments?
Yes, and I did not listen to it because I wanted to be surprised. I wanted to hear it completely. Like, I just wanted it to be a completely random thing. Didn't want to have any predisposed notion of what it was.
Perfect. Let me grab my phone 1 second here, Steve, as you filibuster.
Yeah, of course.
For a few moments.
Yeah.
So I can pull up these poll results here. And again, you can find all these polls at Steve and Kyle, Facebook and Twitter. That's where we post them all. That's the love watching the votes roll in. Steve, you send me the Twitter ones in my quest to not be on Twitter.
It has not stopped people from tagging you.
Oh, that's nice. I appreciate it. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
Keep on. I did get one last night. I actually got a Snapchat take. Apparently, Dan Scheich, our friend Dan Scheich, couldn't withhold his opinion couldn't stand the idea that I wasn't getting his opinion. So he sent me a Snapchat
Needed you to
on
hear
my
it.
personal Snapchat so I could hear it. Yeah, and trust me, Shike, I got a take coming for you here eventually because you're wrong. He said the Goonies is terrible.
Oh boy. Those
Yeah,
fighting
that's
words,
and
Dan.
you're just wildly incorrect.
I don't even know if I've ever seen Goonies, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I'm sure
Man.
maybe I did. I'm sure I did when I was a kid, but I have no idea of the plot of that movie.
Right. Yeah, it's something that I think holds so much nostalgia. And then if you haven't seen it in a long time, like that's the way it goes. It's like, oh, what was that part? I forgot this. People just remember the big moments from it, right? The fat kid doing the belly dance.
Oh, the truffle shuffle.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got sloth.
Yeah, I vaguely remember
yep.
the truffle chunk, right? Chuck or chunk?
Yep. But
We digress.
we digress. The first poll last week, Steve, can you tell someone it is illegal to talk to you during quarantine? That is my idea because I want people in general to leave me alone. And Steve, with more than 150 votes, 73% of the audience said, yes, you can tell someone it is illegal to talk to you during quarantine.
Finally won one.
Next poll is, should Kyle feel bad about profiting during a pandemic?
What were you oh, that's right, because you're rolling in cash over there.
I'm just rolling in cash. I bought a car. I'm calling the bank to refinance my home. I've never been online shopping as much as I have in the last 3 weeks. I got like 4 new pairs of shoes. I bought a whole new wardrobe of pants. It's just ridiculous. I'm just buying stuff because I can.
Wardrobe?
Yeah, the next step, I'm just going to build another dining room table. I don't even know what to do with my own.
Very nice. Good. I'm glad that
Steve,
you're profiting.
Steve, with 72% of the audience, said I should not feel bad about profiting during a pandemic. That's 2 in a row.
Look at you. Things are turning up, Kyle, this week.
Is us losing the Kenny Rogers Factoid of the Week poll our Jose Canseco home run off the head moment? As we talked about, Steve, the poll
that was a poll about a poll.
Yep, a poll about a poll. That was meta. That was double inside. And that was, again, 2 weeks ago, Steve, you and I, the poll was up. Does the Kenny Rogers Factoid of the Week provide you with a sense of calming in these uncertain times? And it came back like 50-50.
Yeah.
Something stupid insulting to this podcast. And Steve, with 75% of the audience, says, yes, it was our Jose Canseco home run off the head moment.
I'm glad that people agreed.
Yeah. Well, those are the same people who voted against it, though, so to hell with all of you. Next up, would you watch a video series of Kyle voicing an ad for Steve's free Facebook/Craigslist giveaways? 85% of the audience said yes. We need to kick that into
I didn't even think about
gear.
that. I've done 2 giveaways this week.
I know. We need to kick that into high gear.
Because they all have to be done in the style of 30 for 30, right?
Oh, absolutely.
With just
absolutely.
These, like the tarp, I could have just had this slow panning shot from one side to the other as you say, what have I told you?
Oh, man.
All right.
Just gorgeous layouts and landscapes.
So after we're done recording today, I'm going to find something to give away just so I can – so you're going to have a little bit of homework later on.
Okay, hey, that's fine. I'll find the time and the space for it. My new burgeoning voiceover career. And again, so yeah, that was about 85% of the people said yes. Now we're getting to the big important one, Steve. Steve, is Steve the nutmeg of the side gig?
It's got to be a yes,
Steve,
right?
70% of the audience said yes, you are the nutmeg of the side gig.
Again, Philip, we need Baldy and Nutmeg in the Morning merch. I think we talked about it last week.
Immediately.
I forget how we described each of us as looking, but if you listen to that episode, you will be able to find a very good description.
Now, Steve, I want to forewarn you, the results of this one are going to sting a little bit.
Well, why not?
But should Baldy and Nutmeg be the #1 morning radio show in every market? Steve, 47% of the audience said yes, which means 53% of the audience does not think that you and I, our new morning radio show, Baldy and Nutmeg, should be the number one radio show in every single market. Just insulting.
Yeah, not cool. Not cool at all.
Now, I think we got a lot of votes before the episode was released. I believe our friend Zach Ruddick on Facebook. Zach Ruddick was hell no, team Johnny the Duck and Lisa all the way.
Oh, that's right. Forgot about them. On wait, what was the station that Johnny the Duck and Lisa were on?
Oh, boy. Well, we made a few different stations. We have one radio station called The Laugh.
Yeah, I think it was like 1046 The Laugh or something.
Yeah, and then we had another one that I don't know. We've created so many. Listen, what we're creating is we're creators.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Now we're not rememberers.
No.
Yeah, it's not our job.
Yeah, we're makers.
Absolutely
we're makers.
Not our job.
We're makers.
And again, you can find those polls at Steve and Kyle on Facebook and Twitter. Steve, I mentioned to you about the audio I sent you. I was down in the lab, which everybody knows. When Kyle goes into the lab, he doesn't come out until a gold mine is with him. Now, the last time I put some time in the lab, that's the audio lab for people who aren't familiar, right. I came out with, up until now, the greatest piece of audio this show has ever heard, that being the viewer mail time intro.
Oh, I forgot about viewer mail time. We haven't played that in a long time.
Well, we haven't any viewer mail, and now that we're separated and we can, I can't hear the audio, you can. Yeah. So I anxiously await your reaction, Steve. I went into the lab this week, and what came out, I've described to you as my magnum opus.
All right.
My, what is it, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony? Sure. Those are the two comparisons. Those are the two most humble comparisons I can think of.
Okay, so
Steve, whenever you get a chance,
I will be hearing
if you want to fire that,
I'll be hearing this for the first time.
Yep.
I guess we just do it right now.
Do it, and we're going to roll right into the segment.
It's time for
Kenny Rogers.
Fact of the week.
You've got to know when to hold up. Fact of the week.
Know when to fold 'em.
That was the most incredible thing I've ever heard.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
Oh, my good Lord.
If this were unveiled at our live show, I would be standing on the stage taking a bow. I don't want to give away all my tricks.
No.
But just safe to say I was tucked away in the lab, and I came out with a beard this week. That's how long that thing took me to put together.
So did you use all of the effects that the program had available?
Steve, you have no idea. They have so many of them.
I mean, we sound like like robots. There's like sped up versions and slowed down parts.
There's some pitch correction.
Did I sense some bending? Did I hear a phaser in there too?
There was I forget what that distortion was called. There was helium.
Oh, nice.
There's one where it sounds like Steve sucked some helium. Yeah, that is. Thank you to you, Steve, and thank you to everybody. That is my magnum opus. That'll be on the. I don't even know if I'll put that on the poll because I know everybody agrees.
Yeah, everyone loves it. It's perfect.
Is that the greatest audio that's ever been played on this show? And that would be just roaring approval. Right. I can only assume.
That being said, let's play it one more time just so everyone can truly appreciate it.
It's time for
Kenny Rogers.
Fact of the week.
You've got to know when to hold up. Fact of the week.
Know when to fold 'em.
That's right, Steve. It's time for the Kenny Rogers Factoid of the Week. As we've talked about, we are going to do this every week until Kenny Rogers is back with us.
This will never die, unlike Kenny Rogers.
Oh, Jesus.
Look, it's a tribute. I mean, you take it as an insult all you want. It's a tribute to the chicken man,
not just
the roaster.
Not just a tribute, because we already gave the greatest tribute and eulogy Kenny Rogers received. This is like in addition to that, as we go through the laundry list of factoids that Kenny Rogers has about his life. Steve, this week, the Kenny Rogers Factoid of the Week, is he began his musical career, Steve, by joining a jazz trio in 1959. Now, that's not the factoid because who cares?
Okay.
When Kenny Rogers joined the Bobby Doyle Trio, he joined as a bassist. That's also not the factoid of the week.
This is all just groundwork.
Because who cares?
I'm sure that, he cared. His family probably cared.
Kenny Rogers, when he joined the Bobby Doyle Trio as a bassist in 1959, Steve, he didn't know how to play the bass.
What?
Kenny Rogers, that handsome, feathered-haired devil in 1959, weaseled his way into the Bobby Doyle Trio as a bassist and learned on the fly.
Like one day to the next? Like one day he didn't know how to play, the next day he did?
Well, I mean, you guys have joked about it on the side gig, too. Learning the bass is kind of akin to learning how to chew and breathe. It's not that hard, right? It's arguably the idiot machine of guitars.
The idiot,
know?
The idiot machine of strings.
Yeah, exactly. And Kenny Rogers learned that on the fly, and a lot of people attribute his bass playing to the band or the trio's success in hindsight.
Well,
so
come on, let's not get carried away
that just goes to show you
now.
that nobody can actually hear a bass or care when the bass guitar is being played on a song.
No one has ever attributed the bassist with the success.
Good God, no. And that is, Steve, your Kenny Rogers factoid of the week.
Man, I love it. I can't wait to hear that intro every week now.
Again, every week until he is with us again, we will be doing the Kenny Rogers factoid of the week. Now, we are a little bit over on time, Steve, for what we anticipated this week. So let me ask you, because I sent you a text the other day. I still have things that I want to get to, whether this week or next week. What I have is I have a gripe with you personally.
Boy. What did I do?
I also have the gripe of the week that is just gaining, like the list is getting longer. Or we save those to them in the A-bit next week.
I kind of want to. I don't want to wait a week knowing that you have a gripe with me.
Okay.
All the other crap I don't care about.
I mean, listen, I've just been preparing the gripe of the week for 3 weeks. We've teased it 2 weeks, but it's fine. It's fine. It's
fine.
The A-bit next week. You're going to hear the intro music, and then you're going to hear Steve's personal imaging, because we don't have any imaging. Steve's personal imaging for the Kyle's gripe of the week.
Yeah.
A-bit.
Side note, next week, we're recording in the same location. I'm not doing this again.
This is it, huh?
Done.
This is
done.
Steve's.
We're doing deck cast. We're finally doing it.
Wow.
Setting up the chairs out on the deck. I will have the equipment set up.
Wind permitting, I'm assuming?
Wind permitting. It might be a little scaled down. There might not be, zippy zappies and lasers and everything. But
well, I refuse to listen to the Kenny Rogers factoid of the week without that intro now. And that's just me being, pompous.
All right.
I need that played every time.
So next week you show up, just come through the gate. Your chair will be set up, and we will record outdoors.
Okay. You give me a cup of coffee maybe, or, some other, maybe a snack bowl, or...
Why would the location change anything other than where we record? Why would I suddenly get you coffee and a snack bowl?
Well, sounds like a no then.
I'll get you one of the Yorks.
Ooh,
one of the peppermint patties.
Come on. Make it two.
I'll give you two. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Don't say I never did nothing for you.
And then if you've got any chores to do, go ahead, because the gripe of the week that you selected for me, because I said I have a list. So I said I need I need you to pick 1 through 4. You pick number 3. The gripe of the week I've got for you. You're going to have some time. You're going to have some time to go get some stuff done while I rant. But Steve, the issue I have with you today has something to, this isn't something to scoff at.
Right.
It's about family. Okay?
All right.
So the question I have for you is, when did you become too good for your very own brothers?
Well, first of all, I have one brother.
Okay, I'm sorry. So you have one brother, your brother has 2 brothers.
Yes.
Okay, good.
That's accurate.
When did you become too good for your brother And your stepbrother-in-law.
Stepbrother-in-law.
Hey, I'm just trying to figure out a way to, make sure that we're all on the up and up. That other brother is me. That's what I'm getting at.
I'm assuming that this is in reference to Friday night when, as I had told you earlier in the day, because you had messaged me earlier in the day and you said, hey, can you record today? I said, I don't think so. Not going to be able to make that work because we were doing a Zoom call with all of Annette's cousins. We had done it a couple weeks ago. We were doing it again last night, or on Friday night. Had a lot of fun with it. So it was during that I happened to look over at my phone, and it's just a flurry of text after text after text. And I see Kyle, and I see Mike. Kyle, Mike, Kyle, Mike. Mike being, of course, my brother, Mike.
Yep, and my brother.
Well, maybe.
My blood.
So I
Italian
didn't really... at one point I looked at it and I was like, it was obvious that you guys were talking about the draft, the NFL draft.
Yeah.
So I do what I always do. I ignore it because I don't care about that. I don't care what player the big team drafted.
Okay.
Doesn't matter to me.
Sure.
And then at the end of it, I realized that you somehow ended up on like a Zoom call with my brother and his friends.
Steve, let me tell you what you missed out on.
Okay.
There was, and it wasn't Zoom. I don't know if your brother's anti-Zoom. Well, the Zoom has a time limit or something he was telling me. I'm unfamiliar.
I don't know.
If there's more than 3 people or something. So what we had was a WebEx meeting, Steve, that I was invited to join by my brother Mike. Mm-hmm. While we all live watched the draft, brother Mike had some of his friend from California, and other friends from Philly. I mean, this thing was a rager. There were Miller Lights flowing. Whoa. There was a guy smoking a stogie in his own house.
Jeez.
This was the bash of virtual bashes.
It sure sounds like it.
And what Brother Mike and I received that entire night was deafening, utter silence from Steve as we're simply, and let me tell you, Brother Mike was pining. He said, if we can get Steve on this, it's going to be legendary. This is going to be fantastic. It was me, it was Mike, it was Joe, it was Tim. No big deal, all buddies.
Were you guys, because you said that you were like talking draft, right?
Yeah.
So why did you want me on there?
What do you mean?
You wanted my input on who the teams were taking?
I just think it would have been a nice touch if we had another voice about why the Eagles took Jalen Hurts in the second round, which is a big talking point, Steve, during this meeting.
Really?
They were able to get a national scope, obviously me being the national reporter in this regard outside of the Philadelphia area.
So you provided the national opinion?
Yeah, that's right, Steve. That's me checking in on the national side here of the NFL Draft Forum on Friday night. We were able to break down the picks. We were talking Eagles. We were talking Lions. We were talking Bears. We were talking Packers. We just wanted a little bonding, with some of the gang. Like I said, me, Mike, Joe, Tim. No big deal. Just all the buddies. And I don't know what happened. Listen. It usually goes the other way around. When people move out to the East Coast or whatever coast, they become the old stick the nose in the air and too good for people in the Midwest. But old Steve moves to West Michigan, and my oh my, I wish you could see what pavement looks like because your nose is stuck so high in the air you haven't seen it in years.
Yeah. I am pretty hoity-toity these days. I mean. Again, it couldn't have anything to do with the fact that I was on another call, which you knew about. You had been informed. So you want me to drop what I'm doing then to join you? Mm-hmm. Now, what I was doing was fun. You wanted me to drop the fun and go into the sports chat room to talk draft.
Oh, there you go, phrasing it like a hoity-toity Midwesterner again, and jamming your nose to the ceiling. I'm just saying, it's going to be a little bonding time. Me, you, Mike. I haven't seen Mike, and I want to say I haven't seen Mike since your wedding.
Yeah, probably.
So you've got a challenger, by the way. You've got a challenger for Bradley Cooper here.
Who's
He's
that?
coming for you. Mike's coming.
Is he really?
He said he's coming for you, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. I'm just saying, Steve, there was a lot of hurt feelings in the WebEx meeting on Friday night.
I was actually pretty disappointed when, after we finished our call with all of Annette's cousins, and I went back through the messages, because I think I replied to, I don't know if it went to both of you or if it was just to my brother, but
right.
I replied, I was like, what's going on? I can join now, and he said, no, it's over. And I was like, crap.
I was willing to stick it out, but yeah, they a lot of the guys had family, and they were putting their kids to bed at like 9:45, 10 o'clock, things like that on Friday night. So it wrapped up around 10 after a 3-hour and 30-minute virtual draft watch-along.
How long were you on that?
I was probably only on there for an hour.
Okay.
45 minutes. I got the invite late as we were chit-chatting. And
sounds to me like you were not intended to be on that in the first place. If you didn't get
probably not in the first place, but listen. This is how I continue to work my way into being honorary Italian and an honorary member of your family.
Yeah,
because I've now received oatmeal cookies, which were just delicious for some, from your sister. I've received gifts from your lovely mother for baby Reed.
Oh, yeah.
Mike and I, brothers, for crying out loud.
Brothers in arms.
At this point, I would be pretty upset if I'm not the one giving the eulogy at his funeral one day.
So you want him to die?
No, I'm just, in a hypothetical, I feel like that's where we're at, right?
Okay.
Like, I'm probably the eulogy giver. You're probably the brother, you're hoity-toity Midwesterner, you're slicking back your long hair, like you're too cool to be there, checking your watch, like you got an important meeting.
Can I at least be like
Can
I be like the head pallbearer?
I'll give you a left side. I want the right side.
Is there like is one of them better than the other?
Yeah, if you knew your brother, maybe you'd know.
He's always wanted his most favorite person as his left head pallbearer. Boy,
listen,
I guess
it's in my will, and I've got the order written because I want someone on my backside that I don't even like carrying that back end of it.
Do they carry, like when they're carrying out the casket? You go head first or you go feet first?
Ooh, good question.
That's got to be on the pole.
It's got to be head first, right? Yeah, that'll be on the pole.
Yeah, but what if you got to go down a flight of steps? And you're going to be.
Well, what's it matter?
Well, I mean, you're
at
going to be
that point,
sliding.
it's not getting opened again. So at that point, fake dead brother Mike's on his side with his detached arm under his leg.
Why is his arm detached?
They don't do that when they.
You think they just disassemble people when they die?
I don't know. I thought it was all James Brown like. The hell would I know? My only experience is one guy who got his legs chopped off and they can't find him.
Like he's being buried in a really narrow coffin, and they can't fit him in there as is. So they're like, okay, cut the arms off and stack them on top.
Do you? Yeah. Well, if times are tight financially, you got to save a couple $100. You go with the skinnier one, and you just ask if you can throw a couple of twigs in his sleeves of his suit and call those his arms.
Like blow up a couple rubber gloves, stick out of the end of the sleeves.
He always wanted to. He's always wanted to be buried with his favorite latex gloves.
Yeah.
To remember the time of the coronavirus pandemic.
The good old days.
All right, Steve. So the last poll going up this week is: when you're carrying out a casket, do you go head first or bottom first?
Well, head first or feet first.
Feet first.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, these are very important polls.
These are very important.
Facebook,
and again,
Twitter,
at Steve and Kyle.
At Steve and Kyle.
But, that's all we got for this week.
Yeah.
And like I said, next week, the A-Bit the A-Bit. No more getting in the way of Kyle's Gripe of the Week. I've got thoughts, and I don't have a Twitter to unleash them on.
Well, you do.
And
I mean, you still have a Twitter. Again,
it doesn't have the same, it doesn't have the same pop,
you've sent me some hot takes over the last couple weeks, which I then post for you on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, and I get, some of these could be pared down to hot takes, but I really would prefer to give my full thoughts top to bottom on them during a Gripe of the Week segment.
Okay, fair enough. Well, okay, so you can check that out again, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Steve and Kyle.
Yep.
And we'll be back next week with Kyle's Gripes of the Week, as well as Kenny Rogers' Factor of the Week. I'm on the hot seat for that one. Looking forward to it. So talk to you next week.
See ya.